This is the Make Sierra Leone Famous podcast. If you're looking to explore Sierra Leone and understand its culture and its people, you've come to the right place. On every show, you'll meet Sierra Leonean creatives and entrepreneurs overcoming challenges and beating the odds. They are artists, filmmakers, musicians, chefs, writers, storytellers, and designers leading Sierra Leone's orange economy, both at home and from the diaspora. I'm your host, Vickie Remoe, journalist, entrepreneur, and community builder on a mission to expand Sierra Leone's presence on the web. Hashtag Make Sierra Leone Famous. The other voice you'll hear on Make Sierra Leone Famous is sound engineer and producer Frank Bob McEwen at VRNC Marketing Company in Freetown, where this show is mixed and mastered. Now, make the show begin.
Throne was on my table for a very long time. I wrote it long ago as a radio play that I wrote and I submitted to BBC radio competition, the annual BBC. It didn't go through. But then years later, I still have this play in my file. Then this gay thing started picking up. Then I started toying with the idea. It's okay, why can't I just do a play on this? Then I debate on it, and it's a question of inheritance. It's about a young man who left the shores of Sierra Leone when he was age 9, taken away by a missionary to study. But then before he left, his father told him that if by any chance the ancestors choose him to be the king after he will have passed away, they will have a way of bringing him home by traditional ritual calls that will bring him home to take the throne.
Today on the Make Sierra Leone Famous podcast, I'm talking to a poet, playwright, and an author. His most recent play, The Throne, opened to thunderous applause at the Freetown City Council this February. He has published many anthologies of Sierra Leonean poems, including Lice in the Lion's Mane, Songs That Pour the Heart, Kalishnikov in the Sun, and Africa in Gedit. He has also written short stories like The Price, which was published by the Sierra Leone Writers Series, and Closure, published by the Sierra Arts Publishers. His first volume of poems, Salute to the Remains of a Peasant, was published in 2007 in the US, followed by 4 more collections of poems, including The Edge of a Cry, Broken Metaphor, Before the Twisted Rib, and his latest 400 Years of Servitude. His novel Landscape of Memories was first published in 2015 and republished in 2018 by the Sierra Leone Writers Series. Anodoniate, there is more. He was a Cadbury Visiting Fellow in 2009 at the Center for West African Studies at the University of Birmingham and a Visiting Fellow in 2015 at Baptist University, Hong Kong. His poem, Song of the Women of My Land, is on the Literature in English syllabus for the West African Senior Secondary School Certificate Examination, WASC for short. He's currently the president of PEN, the Sierra Leone chapter. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking to a man who I absolutely adore, and a dear friend of mine, even though our friendship is more digital than in real life, but the love is there. My guest for today on the Make Sierra Leone Famous podcast is Oumar Farouk Sesay. If we can get the gongo, I go play bata. Farouk, I mean, I don't think there's anyone who is a creative, an artist, or a writer in Sierra Leone who doesn't look up to someone like you for just like the consistency of your work. I mean, doing anything creative in Sierra Leone is a challenge. What's kept you going? I mean, you have over like 40 years.
Yes, indeed.
For over 4 decades of like productivity and creativity. Through everything, what's kept you going?
Over 4 decades indeed. My first play I wrote when I was in 6th form.
Can you imagine?
Was produced in 1984. at the then City Hall.
You know, I was born in 1984.
You see?
So yeah.
So from then, I'm still writing. I'm back and forth. I've gone into journalism for a while and returned back to poetry and theater. Of course, theater is my first love in terms of writing. Yeah, we keep going. It is the passion, the desire, and the desire to be heard and to keep the culture alive that kept me going all these years. And besides, when it comes to writing, it is difficult to just call it quit because it's kind of like eats into you. It nags you from within. When a poem idea comes into you, you feel like you are being scolded to get it out. So basically, you will not know peace until you have it written somewhere.
So, no, I totally agree. While I'm definitely not a writer at your level, I always tell people, people are always like, oh, how do you find the time to write? Or, how come you write, period? How come you're always writing? And almost, I tell people like, it's like a thing inside of you that has to come out. Like it torments you, so you get it's like, yeah, just pull this still, just put
exactly.
Get it out of my mind because the words want to take form.
Yes.
How have you sustained yourself? What makes it possible for you to make a living from poetry and writing?
Basically, if making a living is the consideration, you will not be able to write from Sierra Leone and survive through your writing. And earlier, when we started theater, we were paid like 10% of the gates proceeds for the play.
Back in the day.
Royalty. After the theater, I went into newspaper journalism. I was mostly writing for West Africa magazine, reporting on arts and culture. They were paying. Then after that, I started working with a Chronicle newspaper from within Sierra Leone. The editor then was the late Troy Stevens. There was no payment. We legally write because we want to contribute to bring some changes here and there. There were no rewards. So then I veer up, say, okay, if I have to continue writing, I need to get a source of livelihood. Then I go into business, and I've done so many other things within the business sector. And basically, it is the business that feeds in.
What kind of business?
I am mostly in procurement and supply.
Oh, okay. So buying and trading.
Exactly.
Yeah. You're Timney, so
Yeah,
we know now for that.
I know that.
The Timneys are known fan-wide for trade.
That keeps me going.
Okay.
But besides, when I started making a name for myself, there was a group coming in to Sierra Leone back immediately after the war. They wanted to see how people are expressing themselves in poetry to capture the pain of the war and war. And one of the visitors who came happens to be the daughter of a very famous conflict study guru, Professor John Ledrak. So he was interested in my poetry, and he thought my poetry has a healing power about it. So myself and the late Tom Corey, he made a review of a poem, and he published a book in which he included a chapter on the poetry of healing, in which he featured most of the poem I wrote during the war. Then that sets the ball in motion. Years later, he summoned me to America on a workshop, to see how compassion could be incorporated into art and peace building and stuff. So of course they bought a ticket and I was paid. Then there I met another lady, the famous Okot Bitek's daughter. She came in the program as well. She introduced me also to the Colombian Festival, Medellin Poetry Festival. That is an annual event, one of the biggest ever. I was invited there as well and got paid for it. Then that opens a new line of income. After that, I was called upon at Birmingham University for visiting fellow for a period of 1 month. I was also paid. Then Baptist. So these are the income
Sure.
coming in. But when it comes to the distribution on the areas of books, there is not much coming in that area too. I mean, you get something if you are called upon to present a paper somewhere, then you got paid, or to do a fellowship program, then you got paid. That's the way I can get resources from writing. But for those listening, if your concern is to make money, poetry is not the place to do it. I mean, basically you have to do it because you have the love for it. If by accident something good comes out of it, fine.
The Make Sierra Leone Famous podcast is made possible by Dot Blue. With its certified air freight service, Dot Blue is the easy and affordable way to ship to Salone from the US or from the US to Salone. No need to wait till someone is going home. Dot Blue will deliver your next package to Sierra Leone in 15 days or less. To ship with Dot Blue, contact us on WhatsApp on +1 240 460 2056 or +232 88 313 330. In Sierra Leone, you can find our office at 17A Wallace Johnson Street in Freetown. Fly and go with Dot Blue. We go deliver for you. DOTBLEU.com.
I think for all creatives, really, I want to say across the world, right? Like, for people who, I think that creativity is like anyone, and some people might consider this blasphemous, but I think like how people get called to be pastors and called to the altar, called to preach, called to be that medium. I feel the same about creativity. I feel like those who get called, or as Yusuf Ujala would say, if you're Ori, the gifts that the ancestors give you to come into the world is to be this creative, because I feel like creatives are a medium that allow people to access the divine. That money, I think every creative person ultimately knows that it is not for love of money, or it is not for the desire for money. It's the calling. Yes, there is in other markets that are more developed, where the arts are better supported, more economic opportunities. But really, back in antiquity, the poets were people of leisure. They were not workers and labor.
They had money. And even the great composers, they had patrons who supported them to do their great work.
Shakespeare was not wealthy, right? Shakespeare was not a rich man. It's those who appreciate the arts that then would sponsor the work. So I that we live in a time where creatives can go on to make art, that you can be millionaires. It's new. It's very, very new. So
we are still trying to catch up.
Yes, it's very, very new. But even traditionally within our own customs, the artists and creatives in the antiquity of Sierra Leone or older day, they served in the king's court or in the chief's court. That means that they were your patron.
They were the patron.
Yes, if you na Yeliba, na the paramount chief you they sing for, na they feed you, na they take care of you. Now because the paramount chief let una sing, na the public go enjoy.
Exactly.
If the paramount chief would say, una not, they go farm. Yes, you go farm. So one of the things that I find really fascinating is that you have this your Song of the Women of My Land, it being included in the WASC syllabus. How did that happen? How does one get there? What is the magic?
Basically, after any time I get a book published, I have copies that I just give away gratis to people in the field.
Sure.
So I happens to give one of this, the book Angel for Caribbean, the Song of the Women of My Land, is published to and Ken Oshaw of Foke College.
Okay.
So Ken read through the book and he called me that it's pleasant poems and all. I never really got the information from him that he has a plan to introduce it to the WAC's annual meeting they do to assess the syllabus. So a few months later, I received a call from someone that the book, my poem, has been included in the syllabus. Later, Ken called and gave me the information. I was like excited to find
that's incredible. Is there I know we're talking about art and stuff and creative for creative, but is there a financial benefit to being included?
Not at all. Interestingly, when they included it, my youngest sister was excited. She called and said, well, now you're going to make money in your work.
Yeah.
And I told her, I said, remember, when you were in school, when you copied telephone conversation, when you say Inca's poem, we are using in fifth form, is here. That's why they are doing the same with my poem. They just copied it.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it's just a single 2-page poem.
Yeah, but
So
it's published in a book.
It's published in this book. So what they do, they just
just copy it.
Yeah, they just copy it.
And they publish it.
Yeah, they share it around.
That has to be illegal.
Yeah, so I was expecting
it's intellectual property, right?
Yes, exactly.
Before you can reproduce someone's, because I think it's good to be included. That should happen.
Yeah.
But it sounds to me that if
what
WASC is going to use your original work in their syllabus and print it and reproduce it, that seems like
it's not them that are printing it. They kind of like get a copy of a book. Somebody, it just takes one person to copy and So I ended up saying, okay, if this is going to be, let me just get it right. Some of the copies were not correct.
Of course,
So
fix up for them.
Yeah, let me just fix
Well, not pull me work.
Yeah, exactly. So I created a website and put the pen there.
Okay, so that people who are
commentary.
Like notes, like guided study notes, so that for people who are studying for the exam, they have some kind of tools.
Yes, and we did a very good work on it. Elizabeth Kamara of the English Department for Farouk College, and also Philip Yabatula at Injala.
Okay.
So that goes now with the package, gratis.
Gratis. FOC. FOC. Okay, so one of my, first of all, I know you to be a Pan-Africanist, and this is something that I know because I know you. And one of the things that Frantz Fanon said in White Masks, it's like Blackface White Masks, is this idea around language and how language carries the weight of a civilization. You are a Temne man.
Yeah, yes.
All these, and even in Ngugi wa Thiong'o has spoken about this. This is the even, I feel like it is the big yoke of authorship and being an African storyteller, the language. How do you reconcile writing in English, using English as the medium for your writing, given the fact that you're this very, very proud Temne man, and these works, it is the language of the colonizers. How are you balancing this? How do you live?
Yes, definitely. Sometimes you find yourself thinking in Timni and transporting your thought in English. Or sometimes you find yourself in the struggling between Timni and English or any other language.
The radio broadcast of the Make Sierra Leone Famous podcast on Radio Democracy 98.1 is made possible with a generous grant from the Asma James Foundation. The Asma James Foundation empowers women and girls with mentorship, scholarship, and life skills training. To make Sierra Leone better for girls and girls in Sierra Leone better, visit the Asma James Foundation at asma, that's ASMAA, james.com. And now, let's go back to the show.
think in Timini? Is Timini like
in some cases, I do.
That's what you think.
Some
Okay.
concepts, I find it difficult to say them in English. So I kind of like rehearse them in my mind, how I will say them. Then after you've done that, to transport the thoughts from Timni to English, it's like hauling a baggage with all the cultural and nuances
Because
and all.
some things,
Somewhat appropriately, somewhat I am unable to put them in. So I ended up like just if you read my poems, you will see some words are in Timni. Then I will try to describe what it means. Because the Timni word can be much more appropriate for me than the English. And of course, there is also this thing we do with English. You sometimes break it, you take revenge on it for colonizing you and make it work for you.
You take ownership.
Yes, exactly. You sometimes do that, so you play with it. So it is, yes, a difficult thing to think there and there. Sometimes even after you finish writing, you will think within you, the script in your mind is still not written. That is where the dilemma comes in.
Yeah.
I will have expressed something like in the novel, then I think again, say, no, what exactly I thought it
Not to say come up
not
in
to say
English.
come, I know come over
Yeah.
the tailor don't quell me close.
Yeah. But now you not the tailor. Now you not the tailor. The material where you use.
I don't quell, I not to say
Now you not fine.
Yes.
The material where you use, I not fine. So, I guess still on this issue of the language, how do you take the work back to your community, right? Like there's so much of the written word in Sierra Leone that I feel like the minute it is written, it is inaccessible. One of the reasons why Semben Usman stopped writing books and moved to film was because of he wanted to make the work accessible to Senegalese people, right? And if they can't read French, it is not possible, which is why a lot of his movies are in Wolof, and he went to film, period. So with your work and writing as a medium, there's the language issue, and then there's the writing issue, right? That the poems then become books that, for the most part, are, and the minute they enter the book form in Sierra Leone, you might as well have...
Basically, like you put them in prison.
You've locked it.
You've locked them again.
Yeah.
Probably that is why I started going back into theater.
Right.
Theater has an immediacy, a sense of immediacy. It's kind of like speak to you in words, it speak to you in action. We are able to reach more people. If you notice all the forms of literature, theater is the most popular in Sierra Leone back in the days because of the spectacle, the sound, and everything all coalesce into a play. And people are able, even if they cannot even understand the words, the action, the non-verbal communication, all of it. So that's why I think the tracing my step back into theater. If I am to reach a bigger audience, if I am to communicate to the Sierra Leoneans for which some of these works are intended for, I have to go back into theater. And we tried it once with Mohammed Sharif, some of my points. We put them together in a play. I titled the play Revolution of Revulsion. It was one of the poems titled. What I did was to just piece together all the poems that I wrote during the war, and we dramatized them at the British Council then, sometimes in 2002, immediately after the war. And it was impactful, much more impactful than they are in the book. And lately, I have a brother who is also like in this IT. He was trying to see how he could animate the points and see if we could get other audience. And there is a lady, Leone, who is running this wax live, teaching children on how to appreciate poetry and English language. She has also developed an animated version of the Song of the Women of my land. And we just tried to see how best we could use technology and the traditional theater to reach out to the greater audience.
Yeah, I think what's perhaps part of the reality of being an artist or creatives in this market is you have to find different ways to take the same product and repurpose it to increase your reach, to get a bigger market, a wider audience. I like to call it evergreen content that's evergreen, right? Yeah. How do you take a book and turn it into a digital product so then you can reach the diaspora? How do you then bring that same book maybe and share it locally by holding maybe readings and events and etc.? It's there's a lot for the artist, a lot is on you because the usual structures that exist elsewhere, again, in terms of publishing and distribution, you don't have. So you find that as you make your work, you also have to do the work of getting the work out. It is a lot. It is.
If I tried even to write in TV, there are like 2 poems.
In 400 Years of Servitude?
In Edge of a Cry.
Uh-huh.
Written like in TV.
What is that? That's the Edge of a Cry. Kapem Ka-Aron.
Kapem like an edge.
Okay, the edge.
Kapem. Wrong is a voice that wails.
Tell me about The Throne, your last play. What was the inspiration for it?
The Throne is perhaps...
Because I heard some crazy things about this play.
Right? Some people even wonder if I did it. Yeah, basically the Throne was on my table for a very long time. I wrote it long ago as a radio play.
I see.
That I submitted to BBC way back in the 90s.
In the 90s? In the 90s, you wrote a play about a queer king.
Exactly.
In the 90s?
In the 90s.
Farouk.
I wrote and I submitted to BBC radio competition, the annual debate competition. It didn't go through.
Okay.
But then years later, I still have this play in my file. Then this gay thing started picking up. Then I started toying with the idea. It's okay, why can't I just do a play on this? Then I debate on it, and then.
So tell us about the storyline in The Throne for those who haven't seen it.
Basically is a question of inheritance. It's about a young man who left the shores of Sierra Leone when he was age 9, taken away by a missionary to study in England. But then before he left, his father told him that if by any chance the ancestors choose him to be the king after he will have passed away, they will have a way of bringing him home by traditional ritual calls that will bring him home to take the throne.
So if they call you, we'll make you come back.
There is no way we will able to
yes, you go just get for camp because we'll call you. Call is powerful.
It's powerful. It goes to your soul. So fast forward, the king died and the traditional ceremonies indicated that he should be the king and they summoned him. But by the time he came, he was already married to
his lover. He's gay. Okay.
Friend, so that wasn't acceptable for the people in the kingdom.
Yes. Now you didn't choose, but we're not accepting that you're homosexual. Okay.
Because of your sexuality, it means you are not gonna be able to give us a heir to the throne. That not all of that. Your wife's supposed to be
the queen.
And not only the queen, she's supposed to be the one leading the rituals to feed the goddess of fertility, the Nau, and all of those things, the Bonodebul.
Yeah.
So if you have a white man as your wife,
lover,
how will you?
You disconnect the customs.
Yes.
Your lover cannot continue the
customs. So that was the call of the conflict.
We will be right back after this short music break.
make us swell up beats. The style when you did us. All my one for treasures. Cheche, cheche, you know feke. Cheche, cheche. Cheche, cheche, cheche. Cheche, mashasha, nani, nani, sasa. Cheche, cheche, you know feke. Cheche, cheche.
That was Daddy Saj with Cheche. And now let's head back to the Make Sierra Leone Famous podcast.
And interestingly, after this, we know the actors were like students from the college, and we started a discussion on how to make a movie out of it, not just a movie, a series. And all the thoughts are coming in. Initially, the thought that I dish out in the process of creativity was to really get the white gay lover to be in a relationship to be in a polygamous setup with the yes. So basically, I just introduced
You are mad. You are a madman. No. You are.
So we just launched a scene on that to just test the waters. It was
wow. What
crazy.
was the response?
It was crazy.
No, I could just imagine like it was like. Wow. So the king in man get for shape the king with me because now you still get for
exactly.
you can bring you boyfriend can no problem now you partner but you still get forget woman then because we have to continue with our customs.
Exactly, we have to continue.
That is so interesting. I mean,
and in their mate's house, then back upline,
no problem.
They communicate with songs.
Yes.
If they see this woman,
pull ints.
They pull ints.
Yes.
And those ints comes in form of songs.
Yes.
You have to really know what it is about. For me, those things that you didn't.
Yes. How this sweet man now go?
Yeah, of course. He was like, so they came to him singing Ababa Kode Bakode Ababa Fui. That's a song of shame.
Okay.
I use that because at least for Shema.
Yeah.
But she was like,
But he doesn't understand.
He doesn't understand.
Yeah. The language you pull int in, I don't understand it. Ibaye Coco. That's it. Wow. I mean, for me, that's the power, both the power and the importance of art and creatives because, Sierra Leone, for the most part, when it comes to sexuality and sexual expression, is a very conservative society.
It is.
2 years ago, a man who was he was queer, and I don't think he had a sex change or anything, but he definitely was born a man and living his life as a woman. And he was, he used to participate in pageants and whatnot. And right before the pandemic, he was attacked in Freetown. And he later died of the injuries. There was no police investigation or anything, but those of us who know him or who knew her, knew what happened. And it was just this really, really tragic loss of life, a hate crime. And even when you go back to the founder of, I think her name was Annie, this lesbian activist in Sierra Leone from right after the war, what happened to her? She was
one at Padeva.
Yes. She, they went to her office, gang raped her, and basically broke her neck. So in terms of, this is why I thought when I heard about the themes of the play, I was just like, wow, this is really, really powerful that
a conversation.
Yeah, that you can actually put on only arts can do that because Sierra Leoneans do not want to talk about homosexuality if it's not to be homophobic and to spread hate. So for you to even like, I mean, like people don't understand the bigness of such a conversation and such a such a piece of art. But that is the power of art. It's something I was discussing in another episode about how in a place like Sierra Leone, art really is the only way for us to talk about
things that
social
otherwise we
issues,
could not
because
have.
otherwise
Yes,
not palaver.
Na palaver
But when you
completely.
sit down, they watch a performance. You don't. People don't think about it as much, right?
Yeah.
They're just taking in the performance. Now later on,
Exactly,
they
because
will
you don't think.
think. So they're not go fets and not go make palaver,
Yeah.
but they'll think.
Yeah, that is where Dr. Farouk Sesay played a crucial role. After the play, a writer does share up with few people. Of course, the reviews were like, wow, what kind of thing is this?
Yeah.
Apart from Dr. Pide Hollis, he was interested from the very word go and he was helpful. Then Farouk Sesay said, okay, let's start this conversation. This play is here already.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to publish it if it is not performed.
Of course.
Because when a play is put on stage, it gives you new avenues. In
Yes.
fact, I have done a post-production editing of it already because the performance feed in some more information.
Okay.
So she was bold enough to take the play and put it on stage. Of course, this will put people and say, hey, this time play, now you bring this time. But the conversation, as you say, you make people sit back and retrieve, what they had before and the lights at the end. The director, MJ, tried by DJ. He did a good job to make sure that the character who played the role is not demeaned on stage, maintaining integrity.
Absolutely.
That was a very
it's I mean, like, bravo to all of you, because as a Sierra Leonean, I feel like one barrier to our development is we accept everything as absolutes. Whatever we've been taught, whatever we've been saying at church, we accept too many things as absolutes. And that's why we can't grow, right? And we just take whatever basic explanation, this year, now this year,
everything goes. Everything.
So, with art and with this play, I feel like, these are the things that help people unlearn what they've been told and helps them interrogate that and perhaps process. People won't shift from left to right, but you can still move them a little bit along the spectrum, right? Exactly, which I think is
reach a point of straddling.
Exactly. Nobody they go center. Nobody they meets middle. Because you're too polarized.
They will talk on the one hand or the other. The one politician say, so not like they want the way they carry it on the one hand or the other.
Yes.
So one leg go one hand.
Yes. No, we have to find.
Put you on the one hand and the other.
Yeah, we have to find middle ground.
That's what art should do. Wear another person's shoe and imagine.
Yeah.
For me, in creative process, imagination is the key. First, the language helps us imagine fiction. Language helps us imagine myths. In fact, language plays a great role in creating religions, because language makes us talk about that which doesn't exist, make us imagine that which does not, and give meaning to them using words. So basically, we are in a position where we can use art to just open a conversation and change perspective, if not, as you say, move them totally, but look at it for second glance. So you have people who don't even look at some things that they kind of like feel strongly for a second time. They don't.
No. I'm right there with you. I was really, if of the things I've missed in Freetown, missed in the sense that I've not been present for, missing the throne, probably is like the one thing I regret in the last 5 years. So I'm hoping you're gonna put on another version, maybe in December or something. Sometime put it on again, because we need. You should have a month-long show, right?
Basically, what happened really? We are so hesitant about the response of the audience.
Right.
So they only booked for a day at the city.
I see.
Before the day for the performance, the tickets were all sold.
Of course.
They had to negotiate for the second day.
Of course.
No, I hope they put it on. Been like 3 or a week.
We will be right back after this short message from our brand partner, the Dollhouse Boutique. The Make Sierra Leone Famous podcast is supported by the Dollhouse Boutique, an American household brand for one-of-a-kind fashion and bespoke creations. Find your next stylish look at shopdollhouseboutique.com. We have stores in Baltimore, Maryland, and Los Angeles, California, showing the best of local designers. Our first international fashion boutique opens in Sierra Leone in 2022. Until then, find us on Instagram at Dollhouse MT Vernon. That's Dollhouse MT Vernon. And now, make we go back to the show.
Yeah, no, I think it's important to that people see and participates, because that's the thing with theater. It's like it's a conversation, right?
Exactly.
The artists on stage put on
immediate.
Yes, we need more of that in Sierra Leone. When the play was being advertised, everybody was saying, this is the return of theater to Sierra Leone, at least on the stage, because when we were growing up. I do remember plays were a constant thing.
Constantly, it was a
constant
thing.
Constant thing.
Initially, it was on weekend. Then later, it became on every day of the week.
I remember the last thing I remember before I left Sierra Leone. The one, because they would advertise them on the radio, and they would do the parade with the blowhorn around.
Yes.
And the one thing that I remember from my childhood, the one play that's still in my mind, because I don't go see but I don't know if I went to see it with family or whatever, but I remember Oumar Man Fambo. And it was that was the play that was going to be put on.
Yes.
And it was a constant thing, theater, going to the play. Yes, something, and even when I was in primary school, I went to Meriwether. I didn't complete, but it's where I spent most of my primary years. Drama was a big part. I was in the drama club, and we did Olurumbi's Promise, Chike and the River, and there was, and I was in drama since I was in primary, in kindergarten. I had one line in a play when I was in kindergarten. I still remember the line. It was a story about a girl whose parents had advised them to do something and they not be listening. Yeah. And so then I come on stage at the end and they say, I bet me finger and not see blood. I was 3. But they brought me out there and I delivered my name. Yes, and I have an uncle who to this day calls me by my character on the play. It was Omo. So every time he sees me, he's like, Omo, I bet me finger and not see blood. And we used to compete at, there was
all schools we are doing.
Yes, we used to compete at, you would do at the Sierra Leone Library Board, and then, the finalists will go up to the British Council, and that's where, and
that was really a strong culture.
It was such a big part of our childhood, and for people like us who maybe then you don't know the word creativity, you don't know what it is you're doing, but it was a creative outlet. You got to sing. There would always be drumming,
dancing.
Yes, dancing. It was you could. Culture was a part of our lives, because what we were playing, it wasn't European plays. It was African plays. It was African plays.
And now children are just locked into digital, materials and stuff. There is no theater at all. And theater opens the mind in a way that other forms of art.
No, absolutely. Okay, so your latest publication, 400 Years of Servitude. I was wondering, which is a collection of poems that was published
last year.
Yeah, during COVID.
During COVID,
during COVID, which means it just come out.
It just come out, exactly.
Because we can't, COVID has taken 2 years of our lives. Yes. So basically, we're not counting 2 years we don't pass. So just
exactly,
2 years.
During COVID.
Yes.
During COVID, immediately after the George Floyd thing in America.
Okay.
I was in America, in the US when it happened.
Okay.
Then, somebody sent me a poem to edit on George Floyd. I worked on the poem, then I sent it to him, then I made a comment saying, this time somebody else should write about George Floyd, not me.
Right.
But then that line stayed with me after
Yeah.
somebody else should write about it. Then I started toying with the word. Then I wrote a poem about somebody else who should write a poem about George Floyd.
Right.
So then, and another, then I said, okay, let me just check all the poems I have written on race and put a compilation of poems. Okay, this is how this collection came up.
Okay. Before I ask you to read what I hope would be your favorites from this anthology, living on the continent, people sometimes act like race and racism are not our reality. That race and racism is kind of like not a problem, ubayanda. How do you see that thread, like the link between us on the continent and Black people in the diaspora? How should we be approaching issues of white supremacy and racism?
I once read a book by late Ali Masri, Cultural Forces in World Politics. I think that's the title. He spoke about the way the West treats Africa is just a projection of how they treat the Africans or the Blacks in America or in Europe. So if you see the policy towards Africa is much more akin to their policy towards. So somehow, because of what we are really like connected with the race war, the race thing that is happening in America. And there is also a poem I wrote years ago about the look. If you frequent in the US, there is that look that they look at you for looking like your brother, for looking like an African American, without even knowing who you are. You just need to, because really whiteness as it is invented.
Yeah, it's a social construct. Whiteness does not exist.
Does not exist.
Yes.
So if it is used against George Floyd, what guarantee is there that it won't be used?
No, I mean,
in a sense, it concerns us.
My own identity, it's layered. So I do, of course, see myself as a Sierra Leonean, as an African, but I definitely also see myself as a Black person in the world who has to deal with white supremacy and racism and misogyny and imperialism and all the isms that the, a small group of people who are from Europe try to impose upon us.
Like this target thing that happened in America, this gun shooting. I always tell my daughter that if you're an African American, like you have targets on your back. I have a target for being a Black man, for being an African, for being a Muslim. I say all of those, I could be killed for any of those.
Absolutely. So 400 Years of Servitude is your latest anthology. It is, I want to believe it's available on Amazon.
Yes, it is.
Because this is published in the US. Okay, could you read for me favorite poems? Perhaps the one you wrote about Amadou Diallo, just because we mentioned it.
It's titled like America, I left my children in you.
Okay.
Come, give me your tired, your weak, your huddled masses, yearning to break free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send this, the homeless, tempestuous to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. Inscription on the flag of the Statue of Liberty. The poem goes like this. America, land of a preposition, of all men are created equal. I left my children in you, nestled between the breast of your liberty, covered with a star-spangled flag, singing a song of the brave, a soaring eagle nested in my heart, and I took an oath to keep a promise to a preposition. My children, I left them singing lullabies of injured lyrics, stabbed long ago in the cotton fields to cripple the cradle song. The song swayed between notes and estuaries of pain to land on a hymn of grace, of a grace so sweet and amazing it hushed the echoes of the larches. They sang an anthem of the land of a promise made to the tired, the huddled masses, the poor and the wretched, yearning to break free. Yet many a time they yelled, I can't wait. America, I left my children in you. Philando Castile, Altin Sterling, Tamia Rice, Mike Brown, Trevor Martin, Amadou Diallo, Sandra Bland, Bamily Graham, and Freddie Gray. I left them between the breasts of liberty as I marched like the Gettysburg soldier before me to hoist the flag post in a far post, along with my siblings born from the womb of a preposition. America, I left my children in you. Samuel DeBar, Saint Bell, Edie M. Betty, Rexy Boyd, Oscar Grant III, Walter L. Scott, Renish McBride, and Jamal Clark. Their hopes, anchored on a preposition and a promise. One step at a time, they strive to proper preposition. Several death march between freedom marches, they march, crossing rivers, flowing with memories of pain, they cross, swimming in rivers that gave a poet a song, they swam, reaching rivers that bemoan rivers, they mourn, until a river clogged with debris of centuries drown all the rivers to feed the distilleries of moonshiners huddled beneath the underbelly of the land. Now, America, you are drunk again. You are drunk with the hate that plagued the land when Walt Whitman was a poet of a broken land in search of a soul. My children, Lincoln unshackle, you coughed and stuffed in gallows. The preposition of equality you tore on their faces, a gun you held to their heads when I am oceans away from you. I wish I could reach you from the rocky hills of Cabo, where I fought alongside my siblings of a promise. I wish I could contact you from the trenches of Iraq, where I put my life in the hands of brothers from different mothers, and they in turn put theirs in my hands despite the hues of our skin. I wish I could reach you from the words of Walter Reed Hospital, where pain is pain without a tint of shade. I wish I could reach you from the graves left behind in Vietnam, where skeletons are skeletons without shades of color. I wish I could reach you from the beaches of Normandy, where death kept a promise of equality to all races. I wish I could reach you from all those places to wrench the dawn from your grip, to heal the hate eating your soul, and to stop a country from bleeding in the street, to stop the blood spill from drenching the pages of a preposition, to salvage the unity of a nation born out of a promise. America, I wish I could reach you from here because I left my children in you.
When did you write that?
This was some time ago.
Okay.
It's an older version.
Okay.
Of this one.
I feel like it's such a gift to all of us. And, you know, it's a gift that, in my mind, if more people could access, it's something for their soul.
Indeed.
It is definitely,
Indeed, yes.
it's definitely something for their
As they
soul.
say, poetry is the language of the soul. It's rich.
No, absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
nothing else can do it.
Like what you hear? Don't forget to leave us a review. Your reviews make it easier for others to find this podcast. Don't forget to share it with your friends and family.
I want to now move on to my favorite part of the show, which is called On the Six. On this part of the show, I ask you 6 questions.
Okay.
And you have 6 seconds to give your answer.
Okay.
So as soon as I ask you, you have to answer. So, but don't worry, it's nothing.
Okay.
Nothing to fear. Nothing to fear. This is On the Six with poet and playwright Oumar Farouk Sesay. Oumar, what is your favorite Sierra Leonean parable or expression? It can be in any language.
Teye mumpal nga bat.
Teyemu.
A mumpal nga bat. Don't be the shade of a palm tree.
Don't be
Be
the
like
shade.
the shape of a palm tree. It covers away from where it is. You know, like
Don't be the palm tree who doesn't give itself any shade.
Shade, yes.
Just a go gear that people, you know.
Yeah.
I like that one.
Yeah.
It's about self-care.
So,
Okay. What was the plot of the last film that you watched in 2 sentences?
The last film that I watched was Snitch.
Somebody was a snitch?
Yeah, somebody was a snitch.
Okay. And what song are you playing on repeat right now?
The song I play on repeat is actually Fleetwood Mac's Rumors.
Rumors?
Yes.
How does it go?
Fleetwood Mac. It has mostly drums. Landslide. I cannot remember the lines, but I play it a lot.
Fleetwood
I have
Mac.
it in the car.
Rumors. Okay. What is one thing that you've been meaning to do that you still haven't done?
Really, to visit all the historic places in Sierra Leone, all of them, the ones that are captured on books, those that are not being captured, they just want to do that.
Okay. When you want to quit, what keeps you going?
The fire to just see it some more. I mean, I still think posterity, I want to die when I think I am done. I don't want to go and still think I'm left so much undone. I mean, and most of it is in the writing. So if you go to my library, you see so many, things on my computer, so many things I'm working on. I always keep moving on, hoping to empty myself. Yes.
Depletes.
Exactly,
Really
them all,
depletes.
yes, yeah.
And lastly, who is one Sierra Leonean, dead or alive, that really inspires you?
Artistically, for me, is Simchini Koka.
Okay.
He is a mentor. He was the one who really saw it in us, because once we were growing up back then, we don't have people you look up to. It was him who really went the extra mile to make sure, I remember when I gave him my first collection of poems to just vet them to see if it is, because I've been writing, people were reading my works and making comments, but I needed somebody in the field to say something. So I went to him, he was in Carnival, I gave him my collection of poems, and he said, you could come on Friday, I'll look at them. That Friday happens to be the longest week for me. I wanted his opinion. So when finally I came to see him again, he removed the file, placed it on his table, and he said, Farouk, he said, we have two people. We have poets, we have versifiers. And he paused a long pause and said, you are a poet. That got me. Yes.
Pause.
Yes.
Drum roll.
Yeah, exactly.
You're good.
Yes.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much,
You're
Tata.
welcome.
See you
Yes.
next time.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for
Thank you for listening to the Make Sierra Leone Famous podcast. Until next time, ta-ta!